Well, hello, CBC. Today is the National Day of Prayer, and we thought it'd be good to come to you on Facebook Live and just remind you to be on your knees, praying for our church, praying for our city, praying for our state, praying for our nation. If this coronavirus crisis has taught us anything, it's taught us that we're not in control and that we need to be a people on our knees. God is sovereign. He is working all things according to the counsel of His will, and we need to trust Him and walk in dependence upon Him. So pray today. Be on your knees. If you need a guide, I encourage you to go to Nehemiah chapter 1. Nehemiah is broken because his people are broken and the walls of the city are broken down, and so he goes to the Lord in prayer. Read Nehemiah 1 and just see the heart of Nehemiah for his nation, and may that encourage you as you pray for our own nation. And may his prayer even be a guide for you as he confesses the sins of the nation and asks for God to intervene, and may that be our prayer as well. I did want to give you an update. As elders, as your pastor, we have tried so hard to navigate this as well as we could. And we're weighing several considerations as we consider even coming back together for corporate worship. We're weighing spiritual health. We certainly realize how important it is for us to be together and the importance of face-to-face interaction. Not only as a church, but as humans, we need that. And so we want to gather back as soon as we're able. At the same time, we're also weighing the consideration of physical health. We realize the jury's still out on the mortality rate of this virus, the long-term impacts of this virus, but we do know it is highly contagious, and so we want to be careful. One of our rules of thumb has always been if you're sick or potentially contagious to not come to church, to stay at home, because you don't want to infect someone else. We do want to share in fellowship, but we don't want to share those kind of things, and so that's been one of our rules of thumb. What makes it difficult with this virus is sometimes you can have the virus and not have symptoms, and you could potentially impact someone who is vulnerable. And so we just want to weigh that and be careful and walk wisely. Our third consideration is we want to honor our president, we want to honor our governor, we want to follow their guidelines. We feel like that's wise. We feel like that's also biblical. And so we've been looking at the whitehouse.gov Opening Up America plan, the phases that they recommend in conjunction with the CDC, and we're trying to navigate this and walk wisely. We want to walk carefully but not fearfully, and we feel like that is the wise way to go. So what would the next few weeks possibly look like here at CBC? Well, everything I share is, I hate to say it, but it is tentative because everything's still in flux. But we did want to give you an update and give you a sense of what we're thinking the next few weeks could look like. First thing is if the stay-at-home order ends here in Louisiana and we move into phase 1 of those CDC guidelines of whitehouse.gov, then the first thing we would love to see happen at CBC is that our community groups would begin again, that there would be those informal gatherings also of believers together. And so we encourage community group leaders, if you're comfortable, if your group is comfortable, if y'all are ready to meet together. Follow the CDC guidelines, social distancing, sanitizing, those kind of things as much as possible. But we would love to see community groups start up again. And so whether you want to meet in a home, you're welcome to meet here at the church. Just sort of let us know, reserve a room so that we have an idea and we don't have groups overlapping. But that would be sort of what we would love to see happen first. We'd also love to see people open up their homes and invite a few other individuals or another family to come join them for our online services. A great way to worship together, to get to know one another, to discuss the service and the sermon afterwards. And so if you're willing to be a host, if you're willing to invite some people, you could do that on your own, or you could let us know that, hey, I'm willing to be a host. And if other people are looking for a home to go to in your area, then maybe we could connect you all together. So that's the first thing that we would love to see happen. The second thing I want to communicate to you is we as elders don't believe it would be wise or even satisfying for us to meet together until we're at least into phase 2 of the whitehouse.gov phases. Why? Because in phase 1, they limit capacity to 25%, social distancing, wearing of masks. We feel like those things would be so restrictive that even gathering would not meet the need for fellowship that a community group would meet. And so we're looking to continue our online services through the month of May, because we feel like we'll probably be in phase 1 through the month of May. We're trying to make these as well as we can, and hopefully they minister to you. Hopefully, again, you could have others join you to watch that service. You could be part of a community group. And this is, I think, a time where God is reminding us of how vital those community groups are. Yes, our corporate worship is so important, but I think the backbone and the health of a church is its relationships and fulfilling those one another commands. And I think those one another commands are often best fulfilled and best carried out in that smaller relational context which community groups offer. So if you're not part of a community group, this might be a good time to start one or become part of one, or again, just make those connections informally to find others that you can worship with as we watch the Sunday morning online services. So, hoping to start community groups, plan to continue our online services at least through May. Then if we enter phase 2 sometime there in early June, then we anticipate that we'll try to start having corporate gatherings again. The restrictions will be a little bit less in phase 2. And so we're hoping to then at that point have some type of corporate gathering. We may offer multiple services. We may do a hybrid approach and continue to do more of an online service format, but maybe we're gathered together here at the church and as a group watching a portion of that. And so we're looking at different things and what that would look like. And what we're trying to balance as elders is the need that many have to get back to that corporate worship and that face-to-face interaction and those relationships, balance that with the reality that some of us are vulnerable in our health. And we want to also continue to offer a very excellent online service for those who feel more comfortable staying at home until this virus clears up or there's a little bit more information about what's going on. So we're trying to balance those two things. So just pray along with us. And again, if you need more information, then always contact the church office. Or if you have needs during this time, contact the church office because we want to shepherd well during this time. Again, it's National Day of Prayer. So be on your knees. At some point today, just get on your knees. Pray that the gospel would go further and reach more people than it ever has. Many of us have prayed for revival in our nation, and God may be using this as a way to spread the gospel further than it ever has gone before. Pray that God would do exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ask or think. He desires to do that through the local church, and may He work through us for His glory. And just pray that our own relationships with God and our relationships with one another would be strengthened during this time, that marriages would be strengthened, that families would be strengthened, and that we as a church would grow, and that at the end of the day, we could look back and say this was the finest time in the life of our church and in the life of the church in America. So pray along with me today, and I pray that you are encouraged and that you'll rejoice always, pray without ceasing, and in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Have a good day, CBC.